button, and hopefully that works. Okay. So these are the topics we look at today, and hopefully we'll finish it all in one day. Okay, and we have some spare time left. We'll download. You can download some of the code required, some of the, and look at the resources. So there are 4 websites that are relevant here. Okay, and let's start with GRADESCOPE. So those of you who have been at UNC, especially if you've done 110, you've probably seen GRADESCOPE. Others may not have. The idea is that you'll take exams just like traditionally, handwritten on paper. Okay, and I've polled students and they prefer that. Even your generation does. My generation definitely does. But what we'll do is we'll grade them electronically, which means we'll get handwritten exams scanned and we'll put the grades in. That just makes life easier in many, many ways. And what you can do then is look at your grades electronically. Okay? And if you have a pre-grade problem, you do it electronically, and it's all organized. So that's one site, and that's something you'll worry about twice this semester. Okay, when you take the midterm and final. Okay, this is something you won't be looking at that often. So there'll be electronic submissions, your assignments. There'll be quizzes, and you'll also need to sort of electronically look at your final grades. For that, university has the SAKAI system. So that's what we'll use. Okay, and GRADESCOPE also is going along these directions. It didn't start off that way, but things are more secure in SAKAI, and so we'll just continue using SAKAI. And as far as I can tell, GRADESCOPE is not offering any benefit over SAKAI. Okay. Now, SAKAI also has a discussion forum, and you can post things there, but we won't be using that. Okay. For discussions, there's PIAZZA, which is more convenient in many ways. It doesn't log you off for one. And what I did was, as of a week ago, I took the course the IDs in Connect Carolina. I assumed your email was id@live.unc.edu, and I put that in PIAZZA. And the last time I looked, about 50 people hadn't signed in. Okay, so what you have to do, if you already have GRADESCOPE, if you already have PIAZZA, and those of you who have been at UNC, you already have probably, then you just get added to the course. If you aren't, and those of you are freshmen, you probably aren't, then you have to sign in to PIAZZA, and once you sign in, you'll have the course in your dashboard. Okay, we'll be using that for all announcements. Okay, all announcements made outside class. Okay, so those of you who haven't signed in, please sign in because you'll lose important information otherwise. Okay, any questions about PIAZZA? I know anybody, and if your email is not onion@live.unc.edu, then let me know. Okay, because when I create accounts for you in GRADESCOPE, I'll be using the same formula, and I need to change the formula. But if you are not signed in because you in PIAZZA because you registered the last 1 week, there's a link that you can use, and I'll talk about where the link is, and you can just enroll yourself. Okay, so do that as soon as possible. Do it, while I'm talking. Now, PIAZZA and SAKAI also have ways to go and put all your learning resources. Okay? What happens then is that they are available only to those who are signed into SAKAI and PIAZZA. I'd like my learning resources to be available to everybody in the world, okay? Especially if next class that I teach should be able to look at the resources before they start. So I also have a separate course page, okay? And this is the most important page for you because everything else is linked from here. And if you know my last name and if you know Com401, just Google Com401 DEWAN and you'll come to my course page. Okay? And it's not hard to figure out. My URL, my last name, and then Com401, and current means the current semester. Okay? So, and if you can't find it, send me a mail. Okay? That's my last name at unc.edu. It's good to have a unique last name. So this is the most important page. Okay, questions so far? So what does this page contain? A lot of information. Okay, in fact, there's an index in the beginning telling you what's where. Okay, and I should probably use more sophisticated mechanisms to create web pages, but I just used Word, created a Word document and saved that as HTML. But I could create, I have been able to create a table of contents in the beginning. So you can see the table of contents, click on any one of those sections and you go to the appropriate section. But this course is going to be structured as a bunch of assignments, okay? And each assignment has got some concepts associated with it, besides the assignment, and some learning resources associated with it. So for each assignment, for instance, this first assignment is on scanning. You've got, PowerPoint, PDF, YouTube, links, etc. The learning resources. You've got the assignment itself. You've got some automatic checking stuff. So that's the way to look at it. And I've put this section now right at the beginning because it used to be at the end, in the middle somewhere, and you have to scroll down to it. So right at the beginning, you have this. Okay. So your course will be directed around these assignments. So the page is also structured around them. Okay, questions? Okay. Now there's another page too that is managed by the TAs and LAs. As you know, this is a 4-credit course. So on Fridays you have recitation, and recitations are led by the TAs and LAs, and they're pretty autonomous. I give them advice, but this is their chance to be teachers. Okay? And I'm hoping a year from now, many of you will be in that room. Okay, so the TAs and LAs in this course right now have all been students that have taken Comp 401 at some point. Okay? So they have their own page, and that's the structure for each recitation. There'll be some exercise, some PowerPoint, and a quiz associated. So just to let you know, there's recitation material also. Okay. Now, if all goes well, what I say today will be recorded and will be listenable later. But everything that's important here also I've written down in the course syllabus. Each one of us is supposed to create a document saying something about the course. And the document I have is pretty long, says a lot, says almost everything that needs to be said. So that's a link from my course page. So please do go read this. And if there's a discrepancy between the PowerPoint and the syllabus, please let me know, okay? Because I changed my mind a few things about a few times about certain things, few things. Okay, questions? So this is a 4-credit course, okay? And the usual formula is that if you have N credits, then you have to attend those classes, N hours, and 3N number of hours outside class. Okay? Now, lots of courses have less than 3N hours outside class. Okay? This course, firstly, it's, how do you calculate? I try to survey students, and I've done that. But if you've done programming, you know that one little mistake can cost you a lot of hours. Okay? And the trouble is, it's not like math, which you say, oh yeah, sure, for sure, QED, I've proved the theorem. The program is telling you it's not working. Okay, and if you're a perfectionist, you say, I'll get it working, even if it means a few sleepless nights. I don't recommend sleepless nights. Okay? So it's hard to evaluate, but with the extra credit, you will have enough to do for 12 hours. Okay? Lots of people will finish between 5 and 10 hours too. Most people finish between 5 and 10 hours, some people take 5 hours. But with extra credit, you'll have plenty of things to do. Okay, so in Comp 110, Chris Jordan makes people sign a little document in the beginning saying, "I promise I have 12 hours to put into the course," or in his case 9 hours because he teaches a 3-hour course. So please mentally make a promise to yourself that you will put 12 hours, and hopefully it'll be worth it. Okay. So questions? Okay. So what's the course about? And a lot of people, when they put their resume on the resume, they say, I know Java, I know Python. Oh, I wish I hadn't learned Java because Python is the rage. So, language is important, but only that important. Okay? So we'd like to say that a course is not about a language, but ultimately, to some degree, it is. If you want to really go and understand French, you have to understand the language too. There's a lot of cultural things in it. Okay? But there's a lot of common things too. So I'd like to say the course is not about Java. In fact, if you know Java too much, it'll hurt you. Okay? Because I'll make sure that you can't use certain features of Java. Okay? For each assignment, I'll say these are the legal things you can use in Java. If you use more than this, you get penalized. Why? Because many of the things you will implement are implemented in libraries in Java. And I want you to know how those libraries are implemented. Okay? So my viewpoint is that you understand things by implementing. Okay? So you understand a programming language by implementing a compiler for it, ultimately. Okay? You guys can't, you're too young to implement compilers, but the more you understand about the implementation, the more you understand about how to use it. Okay? You understand why things are the way they are. You might want certain languages. You might want a language that says, do what I mean. It's called the DWIM instruction. People have always dreamed about it. And with machine learning, that might actually happen. But ultimately, you have to go and express in things that can be understood by the computer. And the computer has limits to what it can do. If you think the computer can do anything, there's a course in our syllabus which teaches you about the limits to what computers can do. So be very careful when you use something that I haven't taught. Okay, and I have automatic tools that will test and see whether if you imported something that's not legal, or even if you've used something that doesn't require to be imported, that we don't allow. Okay, so this course is going to be changed soon. We used to assume that conventional programming. Okay. So how many of you have heard of the term objects and classes? Almost everybody. Okay. Well, conventional programming doesn't have objects and classes in the vocabulary. Okay. Lots of times you can use Java, and you can use the word class, but using it in a very simplistic way. So I'm going to teach you objects and, you learn. I'm not sure I'll teach you, but you learn about objects and classes. But almost any programming language today has certain concepts, whether it has objects or classes or not. So conventional programming from my generation, okay? That is what the convention was at that time, was to not have objects and classes. Okay? Now conventional programming is object-oriented programming, perhaps. But if you're using MATLAB without objects, that's conventional programming. If you've done Comp 116, how many of you have done Comp 116? Okay, 2 people. Did you guys learn about objects and classes? You did? You did, okay. From whom did you take?
Calvin Bushman.
And you? Okay. So you haven't taken from Gary Bishop. So I believe he doesn't quite do that. So that's good. I mean, you guys are in good shape. Okay? So, but you have to know about arrays and loops, okay, and scalars and if statements. So I'm not going to go through that. It's not going to be a revision of these concepts and say, okay, we'll finally solidify them. It will be in the first assignment, you just exercise them. Okay, that'll be good revision. But we'll assume that you don't know that. And I'll also assume you don't know objects and classes. If you do, that's okay. I'll talk about how this course is paced in such a way that you can go at your own pace. You can go at a faster pace at least. So again, previous programming experience, just because you've created a lot of nice apps, doesn't mean you've got the concept necessarily. Okay? Like I said, Stack Overflow is very powerful. And so, I want to train you guys to be the ones who answer the Stack Overflow questions, not the ones who look up Stack Overflow. Okay? That's not to say that when I go to Stack Overflow, often I don't look at this concept in it. So I've got to get the job done. Right? I'm not going to understand why it works like that. Okay, that's when you have deadlines, you do that. But I really do want, you guys have been trained to be computer scientists. By the way, I'm just curious. I looked at the majors, And a lot of you guys were not declared as comp sci majors. So how many of you are thinking of becoming comp sci majors? Okay, about half the class. Okay, the other half, even if you don't do computer science programming, you have empathy. Okay, when you get a blue screen and things crash, you say, they just, they for the grace of God go I, this could have been so. So it's I think it's part of the computer literacy today. Lots of people think so, and you'll be we were just forwarded an article about how Wall Street used to be dominated by the jocks because they had the charm to go and connect to people, and now it's being dominated by the nerds because they know how the algorithms work. More important, they understand when the algorithms don't work. Okay, because they just blindly, if you just blindly follow the algorithms, you forget that these are mere mortals who've written those programs, and so it's very important to know when things work and when they don't.
And what if someone is both a nerd and a jock?
Yeah, so nerd and a jock. I was talking to Kevin. I grew up in India, and we had a term for that, all-rounder. Do you guys have that term in this country? Do you know? So India is a cricket crazy nation. And if you can bowl, pitch, and be a good batsman, you are called an all-rounder, and a good fielder too. And typically these were specialized things. Some people who were good fielders, some people who could bowl, and some people who could bat. So I don't know where you got this from, but yes, that's what we should be aiming for. Okay? Being a jock and a...
To dominate Wall Street.
You dominate Wall Street. you make money for us. You make money for yourself. Okay? So that's the goal. Questions so far? Okay. So there are 3 courses here that are relevant. Those of you who are freshmen, these are new terms for you. 110, you haven't heard of it, but that's equivalent to CS1, 401 and 410. And those of you who've done 110, or even others, what do you think you're going to learn in this course that you haven't learned already? What do you expect? I know this is kind of a required course, but some of you are not even majors. So you somehow come to this class, and if you know anything about the version of the class I teach, it's going to be hard work. So, what do you expect to learn in some abstract way? What is missing in your repertoire? Yeah.
Designing software.
Designing software. So you know how if then else works. You know how maybe objects and classes work. That's like knowing how what the grammar rules are. And are grammar rules enough to write? You need to, there was a student, and we asked the student who didn't write very well, the grad student, and said, how do you decide on paragraphs? He said, I keep writing sentences, and every now and then I hit enter. So, lots of programs are designed that way. I talk to Google and Facebook, and they say, so what's a sign of bad design? I mean, if you get the job done, what's a sign of bad programming? Yeah.
It's not efficient.
Not efficient. Okay. So in the good old days, when we had computers with small amount of memory, efficiency was the important. Lots of people made lots of their fame being efficient. And a lot of textbooks are still stressing on efficiency. And then computers, memory became cheap, and people said, what do we do? And they were sort of relegated to not doing interesting things. And then mobile computers came out. And computers on your body and watches. And suddenly efficiency becomes important again. And these people came out of the woodwork and said, oh, we are relevant again. So yes, certainly efficiency is important. Yeah.
If people can't read and understand it.
People can't read and understand. That's the analogy with writing, right? You've got all these thoughts and you put all these sentences and words and you say, well, what's the point? Okay? And what's a sign of people not being able to understand things? What's the equivalent of, yeah?
Too many comments.
Too many comments?
Or it doesn't speak for itself.
Okay, I like that. You know, I'm one of these people who doesn't stress comments too much. I like to stress things that I can grade in an objective way. I don't want you to be hostage to some TA. When I did my first programming course, I lost 10 points in my first assignment. I used the variable I twice, and the TA said 5 points off and 5 points off, and I hated it. And so I empathized. So, but the other part you said was self-comment. Okay? And things become self-commenting. So I can write an essay as a bunch of paragraphs, or I can do what else to make it understandable and modular?
Bullets.
Sorry?
Use bullets.
Use bullets. Okay, bullets, or supposing I'm not using bullets. Bullets sometimes, you know, don't describe everything. I just got a bunch of paragraphs. What can I do to organize it even more?
Write an outline.
Outline, and then outline, each outline section could have a name perhaps. So maybe put sections and say this is the thing I'm addressing now, this is the thing I'm addressing now. And sections would correspond to what in programming? Methods, or something else that I used earlier in the class? Class. Okay. So that's part of what we're doing. We're going to try to learn how to program well, whatever that means. Okay. So this becomes very tricky. Okay. So 110, you know, you can say introductory programming. You can say, oh, the next stage. We'll just call it intermediate. Who knows what that means? But it's more than introductory. Okay. And 410 is data structures. Okay, and now in the 110 like course, you know, you guys have learned about classes, you've learned about methods, you've learned to organize things, but very simple stuff. You know, you've written tweaks, you've written, you haven't written a Shakespeare play. Okay, and what we'll teach you, you won't quite write a Shakespeare play, but come close to what you can do in an academic setting. Okay? And you learn things that help you organize your work. Okay? And there'll be automatic checks here. So you're not hostage to some TA's idiosyncrasies. Okay? You may or may not like those rules. I'll defend those rules in class. Okay? I'll ask you why those rules should be defended. I might even ask you exam questions saying give the pros and cons of these rules. But it'll be objective. Okay? So in some sense, 410, both 401 and 110, both 401 and 410 require 110 because they extend in different dimensions, but they're really independent of each other. And for the longest time, I've been telling my colleagues, let's not make 401 a prerequisite of 410. Just because many of you have probably, especially those of you who are freshmen, have probably done 410 like the trees and graphs maybe in your AP courses. Okay, that's going to help you very little in this course. Okay, because this course is independent, and what you learn in this course is going to help you very little in 410. Okay, except it will give you maturity. So there's a plan actually from spring onwards that we try to reverse this, that make 410 come first and 401 come later, and they do want a linear sequence for various reasons. But I just want to let you know that this is what you can expect, that you're going to be learning how to create large programs. Okay? It's not, if you're just tweaking, just learning, knowing grammar, maybe not even that, it's enough. But if you're writing a play, you need to know. Now, most instructors shy away from doing this. It's messy. Okay, it's very nice to take a nugget, simple idea that's complex and analyze it to depth and become an expert. Okay, you can write it down on one slide and you can just, and I'm not saying that's bad, I love it. But teaching how to do large programs is just hard. Okay, and it's rare. So some of the concepts I'll show you, you've probably seen before. But just because you have seen something doesn't mean you can really master it. So don't drop the class thinking that this is too easy. Okay, if you do know these concepts, go ahead and help your fellow students. You'll learn a lot by teaching. Okay? The assignments are going to be very useful, even if the concepts are not. And I think you will learn concepts too. So it makes a very different kind of course. Okay, and it's been a challenge for me. I mean, every year I try to change it and improve it, but it's, you know, like I said, this is difficult and rare. So what are we going to cover? So, you know, the word method was used. You might have heard of the name function or procedure, depending on the language. You know, so in conventional programming, the one I learned, we didn't have the word method, we had functions and procedures, but they're the same thing. And if you haven't done object-oriented programming, you've used something called static methods. When you do object-oriented programming, you use things called instance methods. So the first part of the course will tell you the difference between the two. And without, you know, so there'll be a warm-up, there'll be an assignment that's due, actually, that's already on the web. And that requires knowledge that you should all have, and that requires you to use static methods. Okay? And the next assignment will require you to use instance methods, where you are sort of creating clones of objects. Okay? Static methods means you're just sort of modularizing. And in the case of instance methods, you're putting clones of something again and again and again. Okay? Now, why do we create objects? Why don't we just rely on, rely on conventional programming? There are many reasons, and one of these is called encapsulation. You must have, how many of you have heard of encapsulation? So the beans are a formula for making sure things are encapsulated in a certain way. Okay? And you will, these are, let me just warn you also, so they are seemingly a simple concept, but this is a concept that is, on appearance is simple, but actually is very deep and hard. This is what you'll struggle the most with in terms of terminology. I'll try my best to make sure that things are clear, but the whole idea is that there is the outside view of an object, of a code, and there's an inside view of the code. And you guys are so into implementing things that you can't make the distinction sometimes. But the whole idea of object-oriented programming is to make the outside and the inside independent. And that's what encapsulation is. And it's a very easy concept to sort of just glibly say, but when it comes to practicing, people get really confused. So we will learn about that there are things called properties, and properties are not variables, and people keep making this distinction. So that's the next topic. And to further emphasize the fact that the outside and the inside views are different, we learn of a concept called interfaces. How many of you know what interface is? Good. Okay. I assume those of you who know interface. Okay, I'll ask you another question later. Okay. When I learned conventional programming, we used to create composite data structures. Okay, records, trees. And there were constructs in Pascal to do that. In Java, these concepts don't exist directly, but they exist indirectly. So you can use beans to compose objects. And so in terms of terminology, beans are going to give you the most trouble, so I'm just warning you. In terms of programming, composing objects is going to give you trouble. Okay? Because it's just, you know, a lot of parts are working together. Okay? And one being a part of the other. And there are pointers, and the pointers get to be subtle here. So object composition, inheritance. That's intuitively a very easy concept to understand. How many of you, I'm just curious, know inheritance? Okay. So about more than half the class doesn't. So you can see there's a little challenge when it comes to teaching this course. Okay. Model view controller. How many of you know model view controller? Okay, 2 people, 3 people. When I ask people, what's the thing that sticks the most as what you learn in this class? They say, model view controller. And today, if you want to build an app, you've got to, on Android or on Apple, you have to use model view controller. Okay? And this is a concept that was invented a long time ago, my generation. Finally is catching up. Okay. Toolkit. So how many of you built GUIs and event-based programming? And anyone who's done event-based programming knows interfaces. You have to know. So you learn how to do event-based programming, yes.
UI is something in Xcode. I did some Xcode programming. Xcode for Apple.
Okay, so there used to be something called the X server, and I don't know if that's what you're meaning. What's Xcode in Apple?
It's how you build Apple apps, so like on the App Store, that's all Xcode.
So Jeff is our expert here. You think?
It's for building iOS apps. So it's a product by Apple that lets you develop iOS.
So it's a GUI based. It's a GUI. It's an interactive UI development tool.
That's some of those. Some of the UI, some Apple UI, and some text-based.
Okay. So there are all these things you guys know. I don't know. Okay. But you will learn how to do this without any interactive tool. Okay? It will all be done using APIs. Okay? And those of you who said they know event-based programming, we'll be using event-based programming. But event-based programming leads to what's called spaghetti code. And model view controller is what prevents the code from being spaghetti. Okay? So it's a design pattern. So that's why I'm doing toolkits after I do model views. Okay? Then generics. How many of you know generics? Many of you have sort of maybe used this, but not, yeah, one person. And then there are things you write in your code to reason about it. Assertions and exceptions. Okay? So you learn that stuff. Now, like I said, you might have learned this, but not practically. So you will learn things deeply in this course. Questions? So these are the required topics. Since there's many of you who know more than others, and there are many of you who have more time than others, more enthusiasm than others, we're going to have a lot of extra credit work. Okay? And there'll be extra credit topics that you can learn also. And so these are just the required topics. What I've done is that I've told you I've taught this course over the years, and the composition of classes has changed over the years, and the more and more people coming in are coming in with less background. So I have reduced the workload, and so it used to be that I would have 12 required assignments. Now I'm going to have 9 required assignments, but since I like those 3 other assignments and students did too many, those 3 other assignments will become optional, and associated with the optional assignments will be topics that you can learn on your own. Okay? That'll be great, and so these are required topics. Okay, extra credit will cover more topics for those of you who know more or have more time. So the topics are layered, okay, and the assignments are layered too. So layered assignments means that each assignment builds on the previous assignment. So at the end of it, you've got a project. And each assignment has its own due date and points. And some of them are 1-week assignments. It used to be that all of them were 1-week assignments. Then I saw that object composition required some more time, and some model view control required more time. So you have some 1.5-week assignments. So you have to watch out for the dates. All assignments and with their dates are on the web. Yeah, I worked hard this weekend. And so you can start, if you have time right now, you can just plug away and in a week finish all 12 assignments, in theory. Okay? But the point is that I'm not going to be the bottleneck to your finishing things in time. By the way, a lot of magic happens during the Thanksgiving break. Okay, I've seen that happen. So I used to be pretty lax about when assignments are really due. I'd rather have you guys finish things than give up. But I talk to people and they said, well, if there's a chemistry exam, assignment with not a flexible date, we're going to do that. So after a week after the due date, you get no credit for this. Okay? And that's just good for you. And also it makes our grading process much easier. So the project, so how many of you have heard of Monty Python? So that's one of these things that unites our generation, right? It's a classic. So what I used to do was, I used to change the project every year. I teach for once a year. And my summer went in exercising my creativity. And I felt if I could design a new project, there's something wrong with my brain cells are atrophied. And I think at some point they did atrophy. So I've stopped changing the assignment and putting more resources into doing automatic checking. And so this assignment has been around for a while. And you have to go and basically simulate the bridge scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Okay? There's a video of my explaining this thing on the web. So it's not required. You can do the assignments without watching it. But if you want to know where you're going and why you're doing what you're doing, I'd say go. There's a short version, there's a long version. Watch at least the short version. It just takes 15 minutes and you get it. Okay? And it's a fun project. Students love it. Okay. So I said layering. How many of you like the idea of layering? How many of you are scared about layering? So what scares you? What's the danger of layering? Yes?
Not being able to finish one project and you can't start the next.
If you don't build the basement foundation, you can't go to the upper floor. So that's a challenge. So what can we do? And especially with this 1 week, that no submission beyond 1 week, that gets to be a problem, right? So there are many solutions possible that people might think about. So cannot finish an assignment if you do not finish previous assignments. Okay, that's consequent. Now that's in theory a problem. In practice, it's okay. There's a lot of us who are going to help you. Okay, we'll make sure if you have the time, you'll get it done. Okay, but just in case you don't, you should have a safety net. What we'll do is we'll let you shift assignment due dates. So you can say, I want to move my assignment due date by n assignments. Okay, so I want to make. So what if you cannot finish the assignment last due date? We can give you a solution, by the way. But there's a lot of creativity in how the assignment goes. What I showed you on the screen was what I drew. What students draw on a scale of 1 to 10. If my thing is 3, the best students do a 10. Okay, so students do a far better job than what I do or require in my assignment. Okay, so there's a lot of creativity required. You can't just take. It's like saying, okay, let's go and take an essay, and I'll just take your essay and finish it. Okay, or I'll take your unfinished symphony and finish it. Okay, I'd like to make an analogy between your assignment and symphonies. So you just can't plug in somebody else's. Okay, and so and I don't want there to be this canonical form, and people think this is the correct way. There is no correct way. Okay, it's all trade-offs, and it's like writing. Okay, it's a lot like writing. We will make sure that there are certain principles you follow. That will be great. But after that, there'll be a lot of creativity also. So people worry a lot about plagiarism. I don't worry about it because every assignment is almost, we can tell. Okay? So what we'll do is we'll allow you to shift dates. So what if you get permanently behind? Can shift n assignment n times if you know the last n assignments cannot be done. Okay? So if you're really behind on assignment 1 and you're getting ready to do assignment 1 when everybody else is doing assignment 2, then assignment 9 you probably can't. Okay? So what you can do is you can say, you know what, I give up. I will sacrifice assignment 9 and please shift my assignment dates by 1 week. Okay? So that's what's happening here. So what you can say is that my assignment 1 due date is the assignment 2 due date, and so forth. And assignment 4 I've sacrificed. I'm not going to. Okay? So you still get points, okay? But you don't just sort of lose all your points. And if you have to skip more than once, that's fine too. And skipping twice, this is what happens. Again, this is theory. Okay, maybe about 4 of you and that's typically associated with medical reasons, with accidents, something or the other doesn't happen. Most of you will finish assignments. Yeah.
Can you skip assignments in the middle of the list if you go to walking back?
Yes, at any time you can say, I give up now, finish. So you've done 1 and 2 and 3 at the right time. Now you can't finish 4 with 4 people, you can finish with 5 people. Yes.
Okay, so you can do credit for 8 even though 9.
Sorry.
Sorry, in a previous slide you said you can not get points for the last 10 assignments.
Yeah, so once you sacrifice, you can't get points for the.
But is it strictly the last 10 assignments, or did you sacrifice assignments before that?
The last 10, because they're later. Now, if you do manage to finish them, let us know. I have such practice. But don't rely on it. And don't rely on our being able to grade them also. Okay? The TAs have their own exams, their own constraints. I have my deadlines. Okay? Again, given that I've gone from 12 to 9, this should be an unlikely. And we are here to help you. Okay? But just, you know, there should be, you shouldn't feel, you should know there's a safety net. Now, people at the end of the course, those who survived, are most proud about the assignment they did. Okay? The project they did. And so if you go for internships, my goal here is that after this course, you should be able to go for any internship. And you should be able to compete with the Stanfords and the Berkeley and the Brown people and compete better. Okay? That's my goal. Okay? And trust me, that does happen. Okay? So, but when you go for your interviews, you can't just say, oh, I did the Monty Python Holy Grail bridge scene. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to them. Okay? So you can either say, hey, you guys in the back, you have a question?
Sorry, I was just listening.
Okay, so this is, so the, you can't just say, I know Java programming. The whole world knows Java programming. Okay? So you have to be able to spell out abstractly what you learned. Okay? So in any course, there's always a learning objective. At the end of the course, you will learn, and I've looked at a lot of learning objectives, and almost whether it's in environment science or physical science, they'll all say, we will teach you how to think. And yes, every course does teach you how to think, but that's a little too abstract. Okay? And I'll teach you exceptions. Well, you can learn exceptions to various degrees. You can learn assertions to various degrees. You can learn generics to various degrees. So we have to figure out, you know, that there's a set of concepts. So exams will be important, and other things that learn things, test things abstractly are important. So there's 2 aspects to concept learning. What are you going to learn, and how are you going to learn it? Okay? And let's look at the what. So the what is going to be done by a bunch of quizzes. Okay? Now, quiz, you know, can give you a little scare. Oh, I'm being tested. And when I was an undergrad, we had at 8 o'clock every Monday an exam. And you know, again, I still remember that, and it was not a pleasant experience, you know, during the weekend every time, every week. So these quizzes are open book, collaborative. So they're just meant to sort of guide you as to what you're supposed to do. Okay, there'll be lots of questions, okay, but hopefully there's no real pressure. Okay? And they'll guide you. And so this is the stuff you will learn. You will learn in every class about 34 questions. Okay? Think of it. So it's hard. It's hard for me to create those quizzes too, because I have to really understand what is it that I'm teaching through this concept, through this assignment. Okay? And these will be done in Sakai. Okay? So now the question is how. Okay? So what kind of learning resources do you have to answer these questions or to learn these things? So there's 2 things that you use. You know, classically, you have textbooks and lectures. And typically the lectures follow the textbook. Well, I told you this is an unusual course. Okay? So there's really no textbook. I told you I've been teaching this for a while. So I have a bunch of material, And if I try to explain to you, so that material takes various forms. This is being recorded, okay? And from this recording, I can derive, from this recording, at the end of the recording, I have a PowerPoint, which I can convert to PDF. I have a recording that I can convert to YouTube. I have a recording that I can convert into something called Mix, which Microsoft is getting rid of right now, but which may still be available, okay, for during the semester. Plus, I have written Word documents on this material. So, you know, watching a video is slow, and you can't search. So I've also got Word documents and PDFs. And I'll talk about something else called PRAXIS. So you have a lot of resources available, and I can talk about the pros and cons about doing this, but last time I did it, we spent a lot of time just talking about that. So I have a link somewhere, Guide to Learning Resources, so you can go look at that stuff. But the most popular forms are the PowerPoint PDFs, the YouTube videos, and the Word documents. Okay? And I really encourage the Word documents because they're faster. But you know, sometimes what you hear sticks more than what you read. Here's so what I talked about was classic conventional stuff, right? PDFs, PowerPoints, YouTube videos. Here's something unconventional. Okay? And because it's unconventional, it's optional. It's to a large degree optional, but this is what I encourage you to do. So how many of you have learned programming with the teacher sort of programming, or watching a teacher program? A lot of you, okay? Now, if I did that for a large program, we'll be here forever, right? And to me, that is like going in a car and being a passenger while somebody else is driving, okay? And yes, you learn something, but you really learn it if you're the one at the steering. Okay? Now, what happens typically is that the instructor has some script in mind, hopefully, if they're organized. Okay? So why not go and put the script somewhere that you can follow and say, okay, now do this step, look at the output, what conclusion did you make from that? Now go and take this step, and so forth. Okay? So that is what I've done. It's taken a lot of effort. Okay? And when I say it's optional, and if you don't follow it, you kind of break my heart because I put a lot of effort into it. But I put a lot of effort into videos and PowerPoints too. Okay? And if you don't watch any of that stuff and do a Google search and get the answers, no problem. Okay? But this is something that I recommend because you learn not only about, you learn a lot of things that you can't test in exams, that are sort of, you know, practical skills that don't have any conceptual value, like what keystroke to use to go and efficiently start a program, what keystroke to use to go and efficiently comment out a piece of code or comment it back in, how to go and quickly go single step through it. So the whole script here is going to have these steps. Okay, so I recommend you follow them, but learning by doing will stick more, but it's also less efficient. Okay? And you know, do you have to go to war to know it's bad, or can you just reason it out? Do you really have to go and do the praxis? We call them practical exercise of praxis. So understand the concept? I don't know, but your goal is to finish the quiz questions in any way you feel. Okay? The praxis are sort of tuned to help you do that. I mean, it gives you the most guarantee you can answer those questions, but you may be able to answer the questions without them too. Okay? So script followed by instructor while doing, I should correct that, live programming. So basically, what you'll be doing is you'll be pulling code from the server, from Git. How many of you heard of Git? Okay, good. So at some point, Git is going to be used also for Word, you know, non-code, just your documents. So Git is just a way to share code among people. So, and if you go for an internship, they'll all want you to know Git. So, and of course, you can know Git just to various degrees, and you'll learn how to pull code from Git that I've written. That code has got stuff that you'll experiment with, and the comments there are not explaining so much the code, what it does, but the concept behind the code. They may explain to you what the while loop does, what the API does, other than what the program is doing. Okay. So the basic idea is that, when I created my PowerPoint slides, I embedded code in my discussion. Now I'm embedding discussion in the code through comments. Okay, so it's a nice duality. And like I said, I recommend it, but don't require it. And you have, to make sure that you've learned the right things, there's the quiz, and that quiz can be answered using the PRAXIS or other mechanisms. Okay, so the typical screen. And how do you know for each lesson where to go in my code? This code is a humongous bunch of packages, classes. You pull the code from Git, and then you just have to know which package to go to, and the package name is right there. So you see that for scanning, you have to go to lectures.scanning package. Okay, so you just have to go to the code and see where's lecture. And the code is just like a folder structure. So lectures is the folder and scanning is the folder underneath it. So you go to that folder and you go to a file called project info, package info, and that will tell you where to start from. Here's the first class to go to. You start off there, you see the comments. So we'll help you with this. But that's the idea. Okay, questions so far? Now this is when you do this, you'll understand it better. Okay, I'm just giving you an idea what to expect. Okay. So PRAXIS code location, code downloaded using Git. Okay, and the quiz is in Sakai, and I'm making the quiz more and more independent of the PRAXIS. I'm even taking some of the code from the PRAXIS and putting it into the quiz so that you don't have to look at that code. That's what I did this weekend for the first one. So the first one, definitely, if you know the concepts, and if you're willing to learn them elsewhere, you don't need to do the PRAXIS, but I recommend you do. Okay? So the typical thing is that on your screen, you have the quiz on the left, the code on the right, here are the comments, you're going through the comments, you're doing the experiment, you're running the program, you're getting the answers, and you answer the quiz on the left. That's sort of the, and having a nice big screen or have good resolution is going to help here. You can do this collaboratively. So one person can be running the code and the other person can be answering the quiz. In fact, I encourage that. But I've noticed that people, something about programmers, a lot of people want to work alone. And even though they've got, and people standing next to them, they can talk to. I encourage you to talk to them. Okay? You also build relationships. You're coming to a physical room, so it's good to do that. But you could be looking at the PowerPoint instead of the thing. You could be looking at a video. So you can be doing any of these things. Okay, so there's this whole rage of active learning right now. Okay? And computer programming lends itself to that because we build things. And the most extreme form of active learning is flipped class, where you don't really have lectures in class, and you spend the whole time actively learning from each other, from the instructors. So the class time is for interaction, and time at home is for things that you require deep thought. Okay. So how many of you have done flipped classes? And how many of you did not like the flipped classes? How many of you like flipped classes? Okay. So why didn't you like flipped classes? Those of you who didn't like them?
I thought it gave me a deeper understanding of the material to go myself.
So you liked it?
Yeah, at my own pace.
At your own pace?
Yeah.
And those of you who didn't like it? Yeah.
You don't understand, a lot of time you're not sure which question to ask.
You don't know what question to ask? So you don't even know where to begin sometimes. Did you have any videos and textbooks to learn stuff on your own, but that was not enough?
It's preference between having a teacher and there.
Now one thing is there, if you're in a lecture, you often think you're learning till the exam comes around. And that's when the honeymoon finishes. And you know, but you're sad for a day or two. And now with this stuff, sort of every class, you get to know what your limits are. Every assignment, you get to know what your limits are. And as one student says, at the end of the class, my head hurts. Whereas when you're in a lecture, you're watching a TV program, right? And when you're in a flip class, you're playing a game or being active. Okay? So it's trade-off. I'm not going to say that it's one way is better or not. Let me tell you from my point of view, which do you think is easier for me to do? Lecture place class or flip class? You know what I do is, I've got these on video. So I just, while having breakfast, play my video from last year. All comes in my head. I know where I goofed up. I didn't know where I goofed up. And then I give a very nice, smooth lecture at 11 o'clock. It's much easier. And I always believe that what is harder is better. So let me give you my reason for, we're going to do a mix, okay? And I'm going to make sure that you get to answer your questions, okay? So, and all you guys who raised your hands. So, and there is no, I don't know what the truth is. I'll admit it, okay? But I'll give you my reason. And I've told you about all these resources, okay? And you have to agree that the more the resources, the less the value of the library. Okay? Now, if you like music, you know, going to a live concert and listen to a recording are different things. We have to admit that. Okay? So if we had infinite amount of time, we would do both. But we don't. Okay? So, so I enjoy, I mean, I'm in this profession because I enjoy live lecture. I enjoy asking questions. I enjoy getting answers. I enjoy light bulbs going on in your head. And when you watch the video recordings at home, I don't see any of that stuff. Okay? So to that extent, you know, I share your feeling about it. Okay? But the fact is that what breaks my heart is that I give the lecture. Some people even answer the questions. In my next lecture, I ask the same. I ask questions that builds on that. And even the ones who had answered questions have forgotten what they answered. And I said, but you answered this last time. So I did. Okay. So things don't stick. And when things don't stick, then it bugs me. Okay. Because this is useful stuff. This is not just, you know, everything is useful to some degree. So since I teach it, this is useful stuff. Okay. And university is encouraging more and more active learning. I can see both ways, but since there is, my own logic tells me this is better. The world is telling me this is the way to go. We're going to go here with all its pros and cons, recognizing the pros and cons. Okay, not ignoring the cons. Okay. So here's what I'll do. There'll be a topic associated with the assignment. I'll tell you what you're going to learn from that topic. Just the structure. You know, we're going to learn about scanning. We're going to learn about instance variables. These things, why are they important? Just some very abstract introduction. Then you go and learn it. While you're learning it, if you're doing it in class, we are here to answer your questions. And the quiz questions are making sure that, and so this active learning is going to be, you can use this class time for anything. You can use the class time to do your assignments, to do the quizzes, whatever is the bottleneck for you. And we are here to answer one-on-one your question. Okay, I don't quite know how many LAs and TAs I'm going to have. I'm going to try to get some more today. But if we have enough manpower, we can do it. Okay? And then after the quiz is due, has been done, quizzes, you know, multiple choice questions. And multiple choice questions have the limits to how much. We don't quite understand why, explanations. So then I'm going to have a discussion of where the questions went wrong. And I'm going to ask you guys, why was the answer C and not B? And then, you know, some of you will answer that question. And if no one answers, I'll answer the question. Okay? So that's going to be there. So we're going to do a hybrid approach. Where let's say on Tuesday, or on the same day, I go and introduce the next topic. Or I go over the previous topic and then introduce the next topic. Or maybe on one day, Tuesday, I introduce the new topic. And on Thursdays, I discuss the old. Okay? So we'll figure it out. For instance, there's a quiz that I'm going to post right after class. That's going to be due by Wednesday night next week. So and next Tuesday, I'll tell you a little bit about the quiz. You can start on your own. You use the class time to do the quiz. You finish up, you use 2 more days to finish it up. And then on Thursday, we discuss the quiz. And I post the next quiz, and then I introduce the next quiz to you on next Tuesday, and so on. Okay? So it'll be a mix. I get to interact with you, I get to ask you questions, and so, you know, and it kind of worked well the last 2 times. Okay, grade distribution. So you're going to do all these quizzes, and you won't do any quizzes if there's no points associated with them. So 10% of the grade is quizzes, which is good, because this means, you know, you're doing this over the whole semester with people, with resources, and you're not hostage to that midterm and final, that if you didn't have a good day, you're stuck. Okay? There'll be some recitation quizzes too, which will be much simpler, just to make sure that you go to recitations. So that's about 3%. Assignments are a big deal. Okay? So the 9 assignments are going to be worth 47%. Midterm, 25% seems reasonable. Final, 15% seems quite unreasonable. Okay? Unreasonable good, unreasonable bad, I don't know. Let me tell you why it's unreasonable good. I don't have cumulative finals. Okay? Also, the second half of the material requires such complex code, or such large amount of code, that it's hard to test it properly and examine. And the one thing students want the most is to not take the final if they have to. So there'll be enough extra credit that if you've been doing everything right, now university law requires you to take the exam. Okay? Now the question is, will you study for it? So about 10% of the class or 15% of the class will come in, will sign their name and go written and go. Okay? Because you've done all the extra credit, and you don't need the 15%. And I'll tell you what you're already getting. Okay? So that is the incentive to do the extra credit. I really believe, and all the students believe, they learn more from doing those 3 extra assignments and the extra credit assignments than they learn from final. Okay? And I don't think anybody has taken the final and done the extra credit, but you're welcome to do it. Okay? In a more advanced class, one student did that, and he had the most awful handwriting. And I knew the person getting an A grade, and I had to go, and I suffered through the handwriting to sort of give the grade he already had. Okay? But I don't promise I'll grade it. Okay? That was a smaller class. Okay? Now, in the past, I've made in-class participation part of the requirement. And I'm very glad there's about 5 of you who've answered questions. And I hope you feel comfortable answering questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. And you know, the reason I'm in this job is not to teach you. I mean, this sounds like a cliche, but honestly, every time I teach, I learn something new, like X. I never heard of X. Okay? But also I learned how you guys think. You know, I was taught, I learned in a different generation. So I do want questions to be answered, but a lot of you guys don't answer questions. And I say, hey, there's 6% of your grade for answering questions, and you still don't answer questions. And that's okay. Those students typically do the extra credit and make it through. And so I'm going to make this extra credit. Okay, so if you answer questions, I made the assignments worth much more. It used to be 32% or so. Now I put this all in extra credit. So there's 2 ways you can get extra credit by class participation. One is to really answer questions. Okay? The other is to listen to the questions that are being answered and note them down. Okay? And note down the question and the answer. And I might answer the question myself if nobody answers it. But this way, see, you don't have to take notes because everything is there. But this is a way of taking notes. And you learn a lot by taking notes. Okay? It went into your head. It came out in a different form. Hopefully it sticks. But for a moment, it did stick. You know, even if it didn't stick for a long time. Okay? So this is a way to get extra points. Okay? People often say when they bomb the midterm, what can I do to improve my grade? I'm telling you all the ways you can do. So I really want you guys to succeed. I'm not looking for ways to fail you. I'm looking for ways to make you succeed. If all of you get A's and finish the assignment, I'll be the happiest guy. And that will not be an unfair grade, that will be a well-earned. Okay? So that's something students have liked, being able to, and so every assignment will have an extra credit part. Okay? And assignments will also, there'll also be extra credit assignments. Okay? So there's a lot to keep you busy, but there's a lot to get a good grade too. Okay? Plus, I have 5% for fudge factor, something that I haven't covered. Okay? And if you happen to do the assignments that you sacrifice, that will go into the fudge factor. Okay?
So, leaving aside the fudge factor, do you know what the total difference the extra credit can make in one final grade?
So, the extra credit can make more than 50% difference. It can, typically, what happens is students who don't do the final, the best student gets 110% before, or 113% before they take the final. Okay. But it's more work too, okay? And hopefully it's worth it. Now, I do encourage you guys not to get too obsessed with your project and sacrifice your chemistry and your physics and your other courses just because this is intoxicating, okay? Because you're getting things done. So, you know, on the one hand, I want you guys to work hard, but work hard only if you don't sacrifice some of those. Okay, I'm just saying that that's good for you. Okay, GPAs matter. Yeah.
How would you plan on setting diary content?
So I'll answer. Okay. Okay. Now, if you shoot for a certain date to finish, you'll probably finish later. If you ever followed Microsofts and Googles and Apples, they always miss their release deadlines. So we'll have multiple dates associated with each assignment. An early submission date, where you get extra points if you submit early. That is what I recommend. You want extra points? Don't do more work. Do work early. Okay. There will be the regular date. There will be the late submission dates, and so the early dates are going to be early by different degrees. For the first assignment, the early date is early by 2 days. For the last assignment, the early date is early by 1 month. Does that make sense to anybody except me? So you keep finishing early so that it just builds up. You start just consecutive one earlier. Yeah.
I assume it's just going to be a massive code project, so
It's a massive code project.
like literally would be like
No. It's a very simple argument. I've got 3 extra credit assignments. If you want to do them, you have to follow a certain schedule. That's different from the ones who are going to plan on 9 assignments. The early submission date is for those who think they're going to do 12 assignments. Because this is the Friday, November 30th is the last date for the regular credit assignment. It's also the last date for the extra credit assignment number 12. If you are going to finish 12, you better have done 9 by this. That's it. Okay. So, and I would like you guys to shoot for that. If you don't make it, that's fine. Okay, take the final. Okay. But if you do, you don't. Okay, make sense? Okay. And like I said, I used to make all 12. I used to make the 12 assignment 12, a lot of it extra credit. So a lot of people didn't do 12, but 9, 10, 11 people did. And even last time when I made it optional, 80% of the class did 12. Okay. They didn't. Some of them didn't get an A grade, but they certainly got a good grade. Okay. But just showing you that if you do these assignments, this is how much you learn. Okay. And you deserve that grade, and you'll feel you deserve that grade. Diary. Okay. So how do we know what questions you answer? And in a smaller class, I remember, but like I said, so it's your responsibility to go and note down the questions you answer and the questions whose answers you know. So in PIAZZA, you create one post that you keep editing, which has this format. And you say, okay, on 9/7, my question and answer, the instructor asked this question, my answer was this,
and these questions were answered, and the correct answers were this. And it could be, the correct answers could include your answer. So some of you who are good listeners may only go and put the class Q&A part. Some of you who are more bold and answer questions will be able to do that. If you ask me a question, that doesn't count. I encourage you to do that, because that will be gained. But if you answer a question, then you should. And all of this depends on having enough resources. It's up to 5%, and I'll get to know better soon, how many resources we have, because somebody has to go and look through your diary content to see what you said is reasonable, and then we have to go and review things. Okay? Questions on this part? This format will be all published. This is all available. You don't have to memorize this. Okay? Okay, we've got 2 minutes left, and I think we need only 2 more minutes. So, in class, you can talk to us directly. Okay? Out of class, you can post things on PIAZZA. Now, you can post things publicly or privately. If it's a technical question, not something to do with absence, not something to do with, some other personal issue, please ask it publicly. You can ask it anonymously. I encourage you to do it, put your name down, but I know students feel shy. Remember, from my point of view, if you write something down, you're writing something down that 10 other people are feeling, and you're articulate enough to do it. So I say, hey, you're better than the rest. So it's actually very good when you ask a question, but don't ask a repeated question, which happens a lot. So ask technical questions publicly. If you don't ask them publicly, you may not answer. Okay? You don't want to give personal answers 100 times to the same question. If you're going to have a personal issue, I prefer you go and use a private message, because we all can see that. And if I reply to it, everybody else can see the reply. You can also use the help areas that I've mentioned, but then what happens is I reply back, and I reply all, and then you reply back only to me, and the rest of the people can't see it. So even though we've got this help alias, don't use it. Use the private messages. The assignments will all be Google Docs, which you can comment. I prefer, if it's an assignment question, you ask the question in the text, with the relevant text. The next person comes to read the text, will see the question. Okay? And let me just continue from here next time. I don't want to take your time because you've got other classes. And and also, please look for the PIAZZA messages I sent. Okay, so, there's a bunch of people who left class early, and I'm going to put a PIAZZA message telling them not to do that. Okay? So, if you really have an excuse, please let me know beforehand. Otherwise, it's just disturbing to me, and it's probably disturbing to people around you. So, like I said, I'm not going to change the assignments very much, if at all. Okay, I only change if they need to be changed, not to change them for the sake of changing. But just remember that since there's enough creativity in these assignments, it's very easy to find out also if there is some plagiarism. So don't be scared of talking to each other about anything about the assignment. Okay, just don't copy the code. Okay, and I've taught this for many years, and I've seen only 2 or 3 occurrences of this. But I have to make a point of pointing, saying that this is not allowed. Okay, most of you know that, and there are all kinds of incentives to do some plagiarism. Now, I know it's midterm time. I know it's final time, and everybody's sneezing and coughing. Okay, and including the instructors. Okay, so there is, this course, unlike some other courses, a biology course, when you write, or a journalism course, when you submit your solution, you don't have somebody telling you you're wrong. Whereas when you submit a program, somebody's telling you that, hey, you didn't pass the test case. So that adds a lot of stress, and it can lead to distress. So in the handout that I've submitted on my web page, there's all kinds of links to university services, but come talk to us, okay? And what we'll do is, assuming that 2 or 3 other LAs do show up, okay, I think we have enough LAs and TAs that I can divide you guys into small groups, and each of you can have a sort of mentor. Okay, so what we might do is, I have only 3 minutes left, but think about this. Divide this space into 6 or 7 regions. With each region, based on onions, that'd be the easiest. We just go onion A to C, D to E, and have one LA or TA in charge of you guys, and they are your mentor. Okay, they are the ones, because some of you will come to office hours and ask questions. Some of you will not even do that. Okay, you'll be shy. You'll say, "Oh, it's my fault." It's never your fault. Okay, I mean, if you're having a problem, other people are having problems too. So don't think that that's what causes stress a lot of times. Or students say, "Oh, I missed this particular part in assignment 5, and I've done so well so far. This is the end of the world." And I have to tell them, this is not the end of the world. Okay? And so come talk to us, and we will have somebody monitoring you too, to make sure that you don't get to a breaking point. Okay. Now I have 2 minutes here, and I want to ask you this question because this is going to decide what we do in terms of instruction resources. So in those days, when I'm not presenting in front of you, when you are doing whatever you want to and talking to us, how many of you will be willing to ask an instructor for help that you might otherwise ask your instructor? Lord. Because I can do 2 things. I can have a lot of office hours and have fewer LAs here, or I can go have all the LAs here and just make sure that, and this is a time, why I like this idea is because, like, one student was trying to get hold of me, and I just have meetings all day today, and I'll be in town tomorrow, but I am available during this time. So a lot of times students are not available when the LAs are available. We can have hours spread out a lot, but this is a time when everybody's. So if you don't feel shy about, and we might just have one region where, for assignment help, you have a little bit more privacy also, because this class fits 300 students, and we have about 120 right now, and it might go down to 100 soon. Okay? So we have space. So for those of you who feel uncomfortable, just give me an idea. Anybody feel uncomfortable asking a question here? Uncomfortable? Or you can send me a message. So let's just do that. We have the whole LAs here, and we just see what's happening. I have some office hours, and then we go and adjust the office hours accordingly. Right now, my office hours are on the web. Ken, you're going to put your office hours on Friday, right?
Yeah, once I officially have it.
Yeah, he doesn't have an office, but we find the region. So,
When should I come to your office?
during office hours. So we are still talking about course intro here, and we were talking of help last time, and once we get in-class activities going, that means I'm not lecturing to you, we have actually stuff going on, where you're on the computer either working on your assignments and getting help, or doing the praxis. There'll be help provided in the class, and of course there's office hours. Okay? And office hours has been a bit of an issue because the offices were first not assigned, and when they were assigned, the keys weren't available. But I think so. Yesterday, for instance, Jed went to the office and couldn't find the key, and I heard this morning that the keys are available. So I'll put them all on the web now. The hours have been posted on PIAZZA. Some of them have been temporary locations. They'll get more permanent now. And also based on how in-class activities go and how much help you guys actually get, there we'll adjust the office hours. Okay, so if there's not much demand for help during class, then we'll have some LAs shift to just pure office hours. Otherwise, we'll have both. Okay. When you're in class, you're here, we're all here. So there's no question of going to Brooks and trying to get help and trying to find the right person to get help. So try to resolve it in class if possible, okay? Or through PIAZZA. PIAZZA is first preference because then you articulate your question, everybody knows the answer, so that's good, okay? And I'm there to help provide you help. We have TAs, we have lab assistants, and different people have different backgrounds. Okay? So you're going to get you can get different answers from different people, just based on the background. Okay, so some people have taken 401 with me the last time I taught it. Okay, so they know most accurately what I'm going to do this time. Things change, but things change slowly. So they are the ones who have the latest information. Some took it in earlier semester, so they're missing some information. Some took it with another instructor. Okay, so I teach this course, and Ketan, also known as KMP, teaches this course also. So we teach different things, at least in different ways. And some have never taken 401. If you're a TA, you might have come from another place where 401 is not quite offered. Something similar is offered, but not quite 401. And almost none of the TAs or LAs has experience with implementing the software tools we have. Okay? So there's different background. Okay? And it's okay if you're an instructor, it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. And it's okay for you guys to hear that. Okay? And that's always been true. But in the days of Google today, it's even more true, where knowing is less important than finding out, willingness to find out. Okay? So also, this is more for the instructors, that if you don't know the answer, don't just say, hey, go to that person. Try to find out what the real answer is so that next time you can help. Okay? So, so it'll work out. Questions? Okay, so, there's a bunch of people who left class early, and I'm going to put a PIAZZA message telling them not to do that. Okay? So if you really have an excuse, please let me know beforehand. Otherwise, it's just disturbing to me, and it's probably disturbing to people around you. So let me just summarize. Your obligations are to participate in class, to do something. Okay? Fill the diary by the end of day on class activities, and the diary stuff, we haven't really done. Today's class activities were very few. The lecture, we didn't do any technical concept. So the diary is not important so far. Okay? And also now that I've seen that there's going to be class participation, people are going to ask questions. I know how many LAs there's going to be. So now I can go and divide you guys by LAs and assign each of you an LA. And once I assign to you an LA, then we'll have a way of reporting your diary. So that we'll post on PIAZZA and say, okay, this is how you report your diary. Yeah.
Where are you able to find the diaries?
That's what I said. So you have a PIAZZA message saying how to go and fill your diary. Once I assign you to an LA. And I didn't want to assign you to an LA till I sort of saw what demand there was for LAs, so that I could decide how many LAs should be in the class and how many should be outside in office hours. Okay, so this was actually very good. Everything happens for a reason. It was very good my computer went down because I could see the demand. Okay, so what I'll ask Ken to do is basically go through the list. Now that I think the class size is probably stable now. So we know how many students there are. We can go and divide them up by onions into LAs. And then what you'll do is you'll post a PIAZZA message that you'll keep editing again and again, in which you'll tag diary and you will tag the name of your LA. Okay? And that's a message you'll post, and that message will keep editing each time you have with a new date. Okay, you say, okay, on this date I did this, and this is a private message. And Kent will create a PowerPoint which tells you how to do a private message, try to show you the steps required to fill the diary. Okay? For now, just from next class onwards, if you don't have the instructions quite, at least in your own local file, just go and say what you did, and what you have to do I mentioned earlier. You have to go and say what progress you made, what concept you learned. So just go look at that detail, what questions you answered, and that's the content. And that I did in a previous page. And you could just look that up. Okay? So your obligation is to participate in class, fill the diary, you'll be graded on that. Check course page for assignment due. Okay? So assignment 1 is due on Friday. So make sure you get it done by then. check the Sakai page for quizzes. There's a quiz due on Thursday night. Some of you have already finished it. By the way, there was one question that had an error, so I made that 0 points. And questions might have errors, so I will make them 0 points rather than rephrase the question, because some people do it earlier. So so that's your obligation. Your resources are that go to the page, find the topic, decide what resources you want to use. If you want to use the Praxis, there'll always be a package name and how to get to a package. One student had a little trouble. So when you go to we might provide you help, but with that, I don't have a screenshot here. But go to the package, and you have the package on the web and also in Git. So these are both web resources that you can go to, sort of a special page I've created, or you can go to the Get directory. And if you decide to do the Praxis, you can just look at the Praxis there. If you decide to do the Praxis, then you have to go and import it into your Eclipse. Okay? So if you need help, check PIAZZA to see if question has been answered. If you ask a duplicate question, we might not answer it. Use PIAZZA if possible to ask a question that has not been answered. Ask in class if possible, because we are all here and at least one of us should be able to answer the question. And then go to office hours. Okay? So that's the plan.